Mike Arnott, the secretary of the Dundee Trade Union Council and a member of the Scottish TUC General Council. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Erem.
Thank you. So, as you know, the Freedom for Öcalan political solution for Kurdish question um, campaign has been started from 74 points of the world. You were part of this campaign as well. So, how important is this campaign, first of all?
Well, it's vital to get Ocalan to a position where he can represent his people. Being held in detention, being held in solitary confinement, will not allow him to play the role that we believe and many people believe he needs to play in finding a just solution for the Kurdish people in Turkey and beyond.
Thank you, dear Mike. Also, what another significant issues about the concerns on Abdullah Öcalan's situation. So, what are your concerns of current treatment of Abdullah Öcalan? The isolation still continues on him. What is your comments on isolation on Öcalan, and do you think this is against the human rights?
Yeah, long-term isolation, solitary confinement is, uh, by international definition, a breach of human rights. So I have no doubt that his treatment breaches human rights, which is why we call on the Council of Europe and their Committee Against Torture to establish what's happening to Ocalan on Imrali Island. We know they had a deputation there in September, and the fact that he's been held almost for 3 years now with no contact with his family, with no contact with his legal team. Uh, we don't know what his situation is. I mean, theoretically, he could be dead. And we believe it's up to the Council of Europe to identify his status and to let his family and his legal team and the Kurdish people across the world know what his status is.
Thank you, dear Mike. So also let's talk about the figure of Abdullah Öcalan. Do you think he has a key role to play for peace in the Middle East and bring peaceful solution to Kurdish question? How important figure is Mr. Öcalan?
He's essential to bringing peace, bringing a just settlement for the Kurdish people, whether that's in Turkey, but North and East Syria, uh, and the Kurdish people in Iran and Iraq. And we believe that his ideas, democratic confederalism, the work he did on the roadmap for justice for the Kurdish people in Turkey, all these illustrate how much of a central figure he is, and his ideas are inspiring young people across the world to this day. The fact that people can work together, the struggle for people for justice, for environmental justice, for the liberation of women, and the lessons that he is teaching can be applied not just to Kurdistan, but across the Middle East and in a wider context across the world. We deeply believe that he has that kind of role to play. So it's not just essential for the Kurdish people that he's allowed to play that role on their behalf in discussions and negotiations with the Turkish regime, but it's essential that he's allowed to play his role as a worldwide figure for liberation and for the oppressed across the world.
Thank you. So just to underline the NEVE campaign, the NEVE era, actually the NEVE movement towards to freedom for Israel, and what else needs to be done to grow the campaign? How would you support this campaign? What will you do? And what is your suggestion to make this campaign bigger and more effective?
Well, we've already put pressure or are putting pressure on the British government. Uh, Britain still plays a role in the Council of Europe. And so the fact that the Council of Europe have jurisdiction in the matter of their committee against torture, who should be investigating and standing up for Öcalan in his treatment by the Turkish government, we're pressurizing the British government. And we've written to all the trade union organizations in Scotland to ask them to pressurize our new Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, to raise this issue and to campaign for justice for Öcalan and to address the concerns that we have about him and the growing concerns about what's happened to him on Imrali Island, the fact that he's being held incommunicado, he's being held in isolation, and we're pressurizing on that particular point. As I said, we have a new foreign secretary who's just taken over in the last week, but it's important that he hits the ground running and can raise these issues at the Council of Europe to get justice and to get freedom for Öcalan.
And lastly, very shortly, can we get your messages as well, such as a message to campaign, a support message to campaign, as well as freedom for Öcalan message of yours?
Well, our message to the Kurdish people is that there are many people across the world that identify with the struggle of the Kurdish people for justice in Turkey, in Iran, in Iraq, and in North and East Syria. We understand your struggle. We understand how you've been treated for over a century, and the fact that being from Britain, that Britain had a role in how Europe was carved up 100 years ago, ignoring the Kurdish people. So we feel it is important that we speak out as our country played a role in that injustice. Uh, but we also call for Öcalan to be released, and we call on people to find out about Öcalan, about his democratic confederalism, his inspiring works that will hopefully lead eventually to people not just in Kurdistan, but across the world to work together, to work for women's liberation, to work for environmental justice, to work from a ground up democratic basis to achieve justice for all.
Mike Arnott, the Secretary of the Dundee Trade Union Council and member of the Scottish TUC General Council. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for your valuable comments.
Thank you, Erem.